For sure.
I will explain to listeners who aren't familiar with our routine or the way things work. I mean, typically, a typical show day is, let's just say, you're at the venue by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's where you spend the entire day. You're loading in, setting up, etc. Sound check is usually sometime in the middle of the afternoon, or towards mid to late afternoon. Our case, sound check is about 2 hours, and we rehearse for 2 hours during that time every single day. There's
Yeah.
2 hours of some pretty, like, I wouldn't say heavy lifting, but we're playing music for 2 hours, let's say from 3 to 5, take a break, maybe get a nap, and eat dinner, and then get ready for the show. 3.5 hour show. And now it's midnight or later, and you're wide awake and probably also hungry because you haven't eaten in 7 hours now. So then you
Yeah.
have another meal at like 1 o'clock in the morning and
Yeah.
are kind of winding down, etc. We usually get on the bus at that point, and now we're driving overnight. We're not staying in town. We're not partying. We're not, going back to a hotel room or getting on a jet plane. We get on a bus and we drive overnight to the next city, and then
Mhm.
wake up in the parking lot of that next venue at 10 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning, kind of start our day all over again. The only difference between now and say 20 years ago was we were the ones driving the bus, and that bus was either an
Yes.
RV or a van with the trailer, and we were the ones doing all the loading in and loading out. And so,
Yeah.
it's but the work hasn't changed and the schedule hasn't changed, and it's
Yeah.
all pretty much kind of the same stuff.
You just
um
made me think of a moment that I think sort of, illustrates the point you're making. We were this was when eventually we got to the point where we had an RV. And I don't remember, maybe we played San Francisco the night before or something, and the next gig was in LA. And we drove all night. I was asleep in the
but
RV, blah blah blah.
good, like 6.5, 7 hour drive, RV, and there's traffic,
Exactly.
and then you got like people handling an RV like like in major metropolitan areas,
Yeah.
California traffic, like all those variables. So it's not, you can't even
No.
calculate 60 miles an hour, and then you hope that nothing breaks down.
Exactly, and that happened on more than a few occasions. But so this is the crazy thing, is that I managed to pass out or sleep or something, and in the morning I woke up to the RV wasn't moving, so I was like, okay, we're somewhere.
We're
I don't
here.
know where. Everybody else was asleep, and I had to go to the bathroom really bad. So I walked to the door of the RV, and I opened the door of the RV, and we were parked on the side of a major road. I wouldn't call it a highway, but a very high traffic road
Mm.
on a bridge over the LA River. And I was like, where the fuck are we? What are we, I was so totally disoriented. So I ended up peeing off the bridge into the LA River, which was dry at the time, while cars were whizzing by, because I had no
Sure.
idea where we were, when we were going to get to the venue. That was like a Tuesday for us a lot of
Right.
the time,
Yeah. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times that's happened where that's exactly it. The vehicle stops, or it is stopped, and you wake up and you have no idea where you are.
Yeah.
Like, wait, where were we?
Yeah.
And where were we headed? So where could this be? You're like, maybe Indiana. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. You know what's
And you
even
hope
more
that,
surreal? What's that?
I was gonna say, and you hope you don't get left behind if you like get off.
Exactly,
And
exactly. But you know what's even more surreal about that moment of being parked by the side of the over on a bridge over the LA River was that night we were headlining the House of Blues on Sunset Boulevard, And I remember thinking to myself, this is the unglamorous part in every conceivable way of what we do, and in a number of hours we'll be taking the stage as the headliner at the House of freaking Blues in LA, and I'm
people have
peeing off a
no
bridge.
idea. Right. I can't tell you how many times, and we may have even discussed this at some point. I know Rob and I have talked about it, but I think we've had this conversation with your band about the unglamorous showers that you've had to endure
Yeah.
backstage. Some of these places, they're effectively like mop closets sometimes. And like, if they only knew, like, that later you were headlining this show in that club or theater or
Yeah.
whatever, but earlier today you were standing in mold and fungus and whatever in a mop closet just so you could get clean from the night before. And
Yeah.
It's
I
not going
know.
like this.
This is, by the way, this is one of those podcasts. This particular episode, I think, is a true masterclass for anyone who wants to get on the road, or who's just starting out. Like, buckle up, because it's a hell of a crazy, crazy life, no
That's
doubt
it.
about
There's
it.
definitely a boot camp element to it, and
Yes.
you have to be there for it. And if you don't have the stomach for that, I mean, we lived on $40 a week. Everybody got a
Mhm.
$40 a week allowance, and that lifestyle of sleeping on the floor of the van, not even on a bench in the
Yeah.
van, but on the floor in between the seats, because that was the most comfortable horizontal space that you could have. And you
Mhm.
figure that stuff out on the road. Was it safe? No. Was it comfortable? Not so much. But when you're exhausted, you figure it out. And you, like, that kind of boot camp, but is what you go through. And the between the miles and experiences and camaraderie and all of those things, it's more than worth it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And of course,